student credits too, but that's because I did my education with it.
All right, class, this is EDL 689. It is February 2nd, 2012, and I would like to ask your permission to tape record this class for professional development purposes for myself.
Sure.
Excellent, thank you so much, I appreciate it. Okay, so today we're just going to go, I gave you this because we're videotaping, I don't have any kind of PowerPoint, or we will tend not to use that. And also, I think today is just, I'd like us to work primarily on working through our projects, so giving you some time to do that, because I know you need time to coordinate. And then the other thing too is, you know, so many of you have talked about how you want to kind of wrap up what you've learned throughout the course, the program sequence. So I thought, you know, I've provided here a list of your planned program, and I thought maybe what we could do is kind of discuss those things and what you think you learned, and pieces that you felt very strongly about, or, you know, areas where you'd like to know more, etc. Just kind of review that. And if other people have other ideas about what it is that we should be doing, you should feel free to add in. But we'll start at the beginning. So Carolyn, you talked to your daughter. Did everybody see this email?
Yes.
Did you also, sorry,
Yeah.
Is there any other way to, you saw that email, did you? Okay, because I was worried that maybe you wouldn't get it.
The email that came, not our Blackboard email, the other email.
You know, I used Blackmore,
I
but
saw
then
that
it
too.
popped it
Yeah.
into the Owls.
So they were the same.
It was the
Okay.
same, yeah.
It's magic.
And so she just, she said she'd be very happy to do it. And she just needed some questions, the more the better, so that she could put them into categories of, I guess she has categories that she puts them into, you know, and just structure it somewhat for her. So you could send me as many questions that you have about resumes or interviews. She's, I gave you a bit of a background. She's a headhunter for investment companies in the DC area. And so she works with finance type people. And
So that might be a little different in setting up a finance resume than
well, I think the resume might be different, but some of the general, there might be some general sort of understandings that you could take away from an interview, or what to look for when you put together a resume. I was in Washington 3 weekends ago, and she said, "Okay, Mom, so here's how we set up your resume." And she described it in a narrative format. And I wrote her back and I said, "Do you mean resumes are narrative, or is that the cover letter?" And she didn't get back to me, but that's my question. It's like, you know, how do you set this up? One thing she did say is, don't put down my birth date.
Right.
And then I think the cover letter is more in a narrative format.
Right, that's what you want. You want your resume to be sort of, you know, it's just the facts coverage, really, of things you've done, and then things you want to highlight. And I've gotten a number of your resumes, and I've actually commented back. And, you know, I think my general comment is, I'm getting resumes that are primarily more teacherly.
Right.
They're focused on your teaching practice, which is fine. That's what you've been doing, you know, your counseling practice. And so, you know, so for the resume, we want you to look at, we want to see your education, your job history, and your, underneath kind of the job, your certifications, and then underneath the job history area, and there are different ways to do this. Some people do it like, Ingrid had a great resume with sort of outlined tasks that she undertook within these various jobs that highlights, you know, key functions that she plays and key skills that she has, etc. So you want to also be able to highlight those sorts of things. And if you're trying to turn your resume in a more leaderly direction, what you want to be thinking about is, okay, how do I frame the things I've been doing in more leadership terms? So for those of you who submit, so also Rachel had asked the question, so I sent back the resume and I only gave like 2 points or something. don't worry about the points, okay? Rachel's okay now.
She's okay now. I know. She's all right.
I figured that's what it was, but I
No,
have to make sure.
That's right, no, you do, and you should make sure, and it's all right, because, the whole thing is, I don't know how to give you back the pieces without having to give you points because of the system, so I just give you like little points, and then eventually we negotiate the outcome. No.
When you go to Blackboard, the last time I checked was this morning, but I don't think I checked the resume. So when you go to, would that be under assignment? I mean,
Or grades.
I think you
or
go to
grades.
My
Oh, you go to
Grades,
grades.
go to
Okay,
My
that makes
Grades,
sense. Yes.
and then,
I did say the first one. I just don't remember where
Yeah.
I found
I
it.
see
So it's
that.
under My Grade.
It's one of the
I don't
folders
think
on the
I
top.
saw,
Yeah,
did I do anything with you? Did you submit anything?
I just sent you last night the reflection piece.
Yes, I looked at your reflection piece. And so
Okay.
your
I just didn't know
comments
that because that was in that was in content, and now there's something. Okay, so I got to look through all those things that need to be done.
When you submit, you look under content, and then it gives you week by week, and the assignments are under
Right,
there,
so
and that's where you can submit things.
Okay.
But there's another folder that says grades, so you click that and it'll show the points that you're receiving.
Yeah, when it's time, after you've submitted something and you think I may have assessed it, then you can just go to My Grades and you'll see
But
what's.
the resume piece is under grades only.
You need to
You have to
It's
submit
under
your resume.
assignments.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
under
under
assignments.
assignments.
It's
No,
under
it's
assignments.
actually
Not
at the
under
bottom.
assignments.
It's way down at the
Really?
bottom, which
At the
is
bottom of
submit
the
your
content.
resume anytime.
At the bottom of the
Yes,
content,
yeah,
but it's
the
also
bottom
under
left.
assignments.
Maybe I should
The only
find
thing
that.
I had
A
under
couple different
assignments was
areas.
the pop.
Scroll down all the folders, it's on the bottom of that.
I'll find it.
And the personal plan, that's just something we also submit along the way.
Yeah, didn't we say it was optional?
It is
Yeah.
optional. That's a nice idea. Just I haven't gotten to it yet.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I just wanted to make sure that we knew if what we were doing was right. We worked on what our problem of practice was going to be together,
Yes,
and I uploaded it.
yes.
But now, how did they get graded unless they
Right,
uploaded as well?
I may need to I have to make a group,
Okay.
and I didn't make
And I
the groups
emailed them,
because I
yeah.
didn't know who the groups were, but I.
We both
Yeah,
We
we
did
both
we
did.
both
We
uploaded it.
all
Okay, so
did it.
everybody's done it
Yeah.
individually. Okay, I may ask you to just upload it to a group in
Okay.
a minute, but so the
I
groups.
wasn't sure where the groups are.
No,
so-
I haven't made them.
Okay.
I haven't made them.
But I did a problem.
Right, you did yours,
Yes.
So-
I did too.
and you did too.
I submitted mine just today.
Okay,
Because
all right. And then Tom is late today, so
Oh,
he's
he is
coming.
coming. He's still here.
coming. He's
Okay.
yeah, he is. He's here. Yes, he can be here. So a couple of things. So who are the groups? You three are one group, and you four are the other group. Okay, great. And then
Oh, Tom's doing school clinic.
I assumed he was. He was sitting with us the other day.
Okay.
So, I'm assuming he is.
it'll all come out in the
Yeah.
wash, right?
I'm assuming.
Okay.
I think I remember him saying he liked that idea, but I didn't see any posts.
Going back to the interviewing though and the resume business, is it okay if we do that on March 6th and do it like via web space? Because we're going to be doing it anyway. And
let
I
me
can,
just check with her. Let me
Okay.
just check with Carolyn.
yeah,
Alright.
you check on that. It would be during this time on March 6th. And that's not a time when we're meeting, you're in your research space.
Mhm.
But we can all log on via WebEx. And if you have, yeah,
I see what you're saying.
and if you have cameras, you can log on with your webcam, which is really fun.
But otherwise, we could still just.
You
we
can
could
just
type
log
in.
on,
And-
or
What
you
do we
can
log
call
on
in.
to?
Okay.
It's just it's a link in
Oh,
the
so you sent us
computer.
that.
I send you a link,
Okay.
you click on the link,
Okay.
and you show up. And if you have a
Nice.
camera, you show up in person.
Okay.
And if you don't have a camera, you show up as just a silhouette head,
Mhm.
you know, like on Facebook.
Okay. Do we have to turn the camera on, or it just automatically happens
Automatic.
once you get?
I don't
it's
know,
automatic?
It probably automatically.
whatever
think
you do
so.
with your cameras.
I never.
I
Yeah,
have
you
my
do. There's
laptop,
a,
but we
there's a
never
little
use it.
icon on the right.
Yeah, I know I have a camera. I've just never used it. My son uses Skype.
Yeah.
So this is off-site, it's not
Right.
a Skype, it's everybody's in
We'd
their
all
little
be on.
pod.
Yep, we'd be in our own
Off-site.
pod.
This is fairly new, isn't it? The WebEx thing is this one?
This, well, we got access to WebEx as faculty being able to use it, I think, mid-year last year or something, late in the year. I love WebEx.
So we'll be doing it at
Yeah.
5 if that's
Mhm.
that's.
And it works for Carolyn.
Six
And
five.
thank you very much, Jane, for,
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I also have another daughter who I was in Atlanta this weekend, and she works for Delta.
Mhm.
And if you wanted to have an opportunity to speak with her, she's a manager for revenue side of points, built up points.
Mhm.
So she has a number of people that work for her, and she's interviewing. She's also she interviews interns from the Bocconi MBA program at Emory. So she's used to doing interviews.
Right. Right.
And if you think you need that, or if that's
Well, you know, it might be good. I think it would be good to do this with your daughter because she actually, this is her function and focus. Tom, do you mind, would you sit over there? Because I'm taping for professional development purposes. Thank you. Welcome. What would be good, I think, is for us to do the work with Carolyn, and then I'd like to also find like someone who's education focused as maybe one of our speakers. And then that way, because I do believe that it will be very interesting to get sort of general information about, you know, their perception of, you know, her perception of resume and her interview tips, etc. And then also to sort of talk with some people here who are really involved in the job market and can provide us with some tips regarding Connecticut educational recruiting.
I did sit on the, I was on the committee to hire a current principal, so I don't know if the form that we used is similar to other forms, but I can explain the somewhat intimidating process.
Well, good. Well, when it comes to that time, we'll draw on you.
Yeah.
Because
But I don't know if it's standard to all schools. I mean, this was just
They're
our
probably all
schools.
different. I
Well,
mean, I think any.
My
Insight you
mom
have.
was a principal, and before that, she was the supervisor of bilingual ed for New Haven, and she took part in recruiting teachers quite often. She's leaving on Thursday for Puerto Rico. Who knows when she comes back? Because my grandfather's sick.
Oh.
But usually when she goes, she's gone like a month or so. But if she comes back in time, I would get her.
I'd like to get people who are hiring leaders, though.
Okay.
You know, because that's what you are, and that's what you want to know about, right?
Right.
So
Then we need to look for superintendents.
yes, or people who are in the system, maybe some of the RESC folks. We'll all keep our eyes open. And
Do you want us to ask if we know of someone, or do you want us
yeah, I
to
think
first
I think you should go ahead and troll around. I mean, it's interesting because when you start asking, you know, it's not okay for you to ask for yourself. I'm looking for a job. Who are the people to look for? But you're in a class. It's a leadership class. We're addressing this issue. You know, who do we use in our school system? So that's, you know, I mean, that can be very beneficial.
And when would they come? Any other classes?
I don't know. We'd
Okay.
have to figure that out. That's sort of down the road. But if we can try to get March 6th for Carolyn, that would be great. And thank you very much. So next week, class or no class?
We have no class next week.
Well, it's slated for no
asking,
class, but I'm
yeah.
asking you, do you feel you need to have class? And you would like to have class, or are you feeling you're getting ready to go on your problems of practice and your projects as you have described them?
I think as long as we have time to clarify
Tonight,
the
yeah.
groups tonight and
Yeah, that makes sense.
exactly the difference between the group and what the individual is doing, then I feel very comfortable.
Okay, everybody okay with that? All right, so we'll
We can meet if we need to meet. We can always meet.
You don't want to bring me Valentine's dinner.
Oh, it's Valentine's night, that's nice.
Oh, that's right.
Now that matters because
Well, then we have to meet. Okay. I didn't know whether I had asked you all to upload assignments before class, like just so that you know the assignments are due at midnight the day before
Oh,
class.
okay.
And if you do that, it'll be late. Otherwise, it's late.
I was trying to figure out what it was that you needed us to post, because in that there's one was like sort of like researching ideas in that content area, and then the other one I think was that, what was it, that personal,
Oh, your personal development plan?
is that what that was? Or was that something else?
Well, the
'Cause I-
personal development plan is something we talked about last week where we said, you know, we're doing these projects, but some of us have kind of personal goals and so forth, and I'm very happy to help you put together a plan or to guide you as you try to, develop some of those areas in yourself that you feel you need to develop going forward, you know? So that's optional, and you know, people have posted, so in that space, people have posted me sort of like just a letter, Dear Sousan, this is what I'm thinking about my personal development, and these are things I'd like to work on, and here's a timeline, etc. So,
Okay.
and then in terms of the post for today, we're trying to get you all to have individual projects within a broader group project. And the one that you all have been talking about, and I'm assuming you're in with that team there, these folks here. So that's the school climate one? Okay. Well, clearer?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
good. All right. All right, so we'll give you some time here. I've got here the resume, the leadership focus. And for those of you for whom I provided comments, did it make sense what I said?
Yes.
Good.
Very
Okay.
helpful.
And I think that, as you continue to revise and resubmit, doing a CV or a resume is a really is an iterative process. And I just said the words CV, and then I said the words resume. And I think it's important to distinguish the two. A CV is your curriculum vitae, and it literally means in Latin the running curricula, the running of your life, vitae. All right, so it's the running or the course of your life. And in a CV, basically, I would describe it as you write down everything you've done. It can be chronological. You can organize it in different ways. But as a professional, I would encourage you now to start keeping a CV so that when you do something that's of interest, so you don't forget it, because it's very easy to just forget all of the many things that you are involved in, put it on your CV. It's just this long. And I will send, there are times when I will send, and I joke about it, I say, please find attached my, quote, kitchen sink CV. It's got everything in there. It's more than you want to know. But sometimes it's interesting for people to see, like, that's your life, and it's everything you've ever done. Then there's the resume. Now, the resume, I believe, is a much more targeted piece. It's typically targeted to a job that you are aspiring to, an objective of some kind that you want to fulfill for yourself. And that's why, some people put the objective at the top of the resume. There are different schools of thought about resumes. Some people feel it's really important to have a very short, clear, crisp resume, no more than 1-2 pages most. I actually disagree with that. I think that your resume has to show in a reasonable amount of space, meaning concisely, but if it takes 3 pages, okay, takes 4 maybe, what you've been doing and sort of what your qualities and characteristics are. I think it's not good to pad a resume at the same time. If you have things to share and show, you should do. So that's what we're working on, is this resume, which is sort of a showcase to whatever kind of job opportunity you're thinking that you want to be. And I think most importantly, at the moment, I wouldn't worry too much about, what's the job? Let's just try to get down, who am I as a leader? And what can I say about myself and my leadership qualities at this time? So, is that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, there's this clock. It's 10 o'clock.
Quarter after.
All right. Let's spend the next, so 5:15, so it would be 6:15. Let's spend until 6 talking about the course, or let's spend, Phil, do you want an hour or 45 minutes to talk to each other about your projects, or is that way too much time?
45 is probably.
45? Okay.
Could you just explain to us how you see these projects
Projects
sort of working at the end? Because I'm not quite sure I see where the end is.
Mhm.
I kind of see where the individual is, but I'm not sure.
Right. So let's go to the resume, not the resume, what do you call this? The syllabus, right? All right. So, as conceived, and I think it's important for me to say, because this is the first time I've taught this course, what we typically do, as you know, as teachers, right, you don't just grab the course and revamp it. You basically teach it as taught until you get a sense of what's working for your students and what isn't. So what I've done is I've taken the course primarily as taught, and in the other courses, this project is really the main focus. And you're supposed to be working in groups, like it says, with a school or agency-based practitioner to provide, to focus on a problem of practice. And then you're supposed to create a kind of I say a case study here, but you're going to develop responses to this problem of practice that you see in an overarching way. Now, think about yourselves as being in a district, all right? I think that's where you want to be thinking, your mindset sort of on a district level, where here you are working at individual schools, but you are all working on an overarching problem of practice that is district-wide, say. And so what you want to do is to try and shape whatever it is that you're doing and build it into this overarching problem. Now, Ingrid, you're very focused on your particular project, and you may need to flex a little bit because, you know, I know that you've got a very clear direction, but you might need to flex for your peers. And, you know, and I haven't seen how it's quite shaping up with everybody yet, so, and you'll be able to talk more about it today. So you want to, together, conduct a literature review. It's right here, number 1. Conduct a literature review that will be used as the knowledge base for the plan and presentation, right? Because you're all going to present together. And so what that means is that you might individually do your own literature reviews, and then you come together and look at what is sort of collected and bring that together. You're going to write an annotated bibliography where you
describe what that article is about.
Right, exactly. And you'll describe it in such a way that you're connecting to your overarching case, right? The third thing, you're going to interview your collaborating leader. And so that's going to take a little finessing. I don't know. I mean, the whole idea was that we are doing this. You may have multiple interviews. You may have 4 different interviews. And so are we, you know, I don't know what you're going to do with your 4 interviews. This is part of what you have to do in the collaboration is to maybe you interview them and you audio tape them, maybe you interview them and you somehow synthesize threads or themes of what it is that they're saying about this issue, right? You are going to arrange a presentation by this or another leader to the class on issues related to your case. So part of this is to bring people in to talk with us about the issues that you're addressing, right?
So if we have 4 people in the group, do you want one from each person individually on the same topic, or what would?
I think we have to look at our time, and
Okay.
my sense is that that
one would be
4 is too many.
many.
Maybe
Alright.
2 would be good.
Okay.
Maybe 2. And then now they can when the person comes in, of course, in deference to their expertise and who they are, etc. You don't have to script their presentation overly much. I mean, what we want to do is draw from them and understand, you know, what's their context? Why are they here, and what can they share with us about their sense of the district, the issue, their school, the students, the leaders, etc. Okay? So that can be a little bit more fluid, but again, in the context of what it is that you're trying to do. Make a presentation to the class summarizing the case in your response plan. Okay, so that's the big part where you're talking about, you know, okay, we're doing school climate, so this is our case about school climate, and this is how we as a team are responding in our different areas. And then supply class members with any readings and materials, the presentation outline, annotated bibliography. So this is stuff you've already done, but make sure you supply it to the class members. Okay?
So the lit review is just giving the source that we're using, like the book, like just in APA style, and then the annotated is just adding that paragraph little thing. Right. Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
Now I know, you know, it's like, oh, you've got to coordinate this and all, but I mean, I think that's the, well, nerd alert, that's the pleasure of the project, right? Where, you know, you're working to really try and look at something systemically. And you can, I mean, who knows? I mean, you also might want to think about this, you know, how does this have legs? How do you put it on your resume at the end of the day? You know, I had said to Ingrid, what you're doing is interesting enough and is sort of targeted enough and so forth. I mean, you could probably write a very good article about that for a journal, or you could present a workshop on it in other. I mean,
it ends up being successful.
well, that's right, but I mean, you know, but that's the whole thing, is that you want to be thinking along those lines, right? So, you know, what will you do with this? It's not just, you've got to stop thinking, or we've all got to stop thinking about these things as just being scholarly exercises, because they aren't anymore. Now it's reality, and the rubber's hitting the road.
Mm-hmm.
So, any questions about that, or does it make sense as a project?
Like the response, is that something that would be actually carried out as if we have a plan?
It
That's
could
in-
be, you could carry out portions of it, or you could have sort of a larger planned response and to
This
say, we're just
this
going to do phase one.
This is but does everybody have to have, like, if they're in their own specific part, some part actually completed, whatever phase it would be? It's not just here's the plan of attack, but this is what we intend to do in order to address the issue. It's here's what we intend, and we got this much done.
Yeah, I think you could do either. It could be just a plan, but I think it really, you want to be thinking about what makes sense in your context.
Right.
And you also, this is not just a project, again, like for you, it might be entree into an area that you've really wanted to get into, or making connections with people that you've really wanted to make connections with, etc. So, so the answer is sort of both. And.
Gotcha. It's up in the air.
Is it bigger than a bread box?
Yeah, I get it. Okay.
So if we all take different aspects of school climate, for example, and take our own avenues, then it's finding a way of connecting those together for the presentation to be more of a holistic.
Or
way.
but you have to think about for the presentation, but like, how
For
are
the
your
world,
approaches, how are your approaches going to be helpful to your district? Your imaginary district.
Right.
Because you're 4 different schools, you're 5
Exactly.
different schools.
Exactly, and we had talked about focusing on a problem that exists in Mark's school, which
I'm
would be
thinking we need to make it New Haven.
New Haven in general will do. But nevertheless, our problem is also going to be climate, but our specific problem of practice is truancy.
Mm-hmm.
And in my district, we don't have that problem.
Right.
So I'm not going to be able to, I can do literature review, and I can write, and I can help them in those ways, and I can interview people, but I don't see where I can sort of apply it in my own school.
Wait, some of the things
we might
that
be
are
able
done
to-
at your school,
Right.
so we can
Some
apply
of
to
the
our
things,
school.
exactly.
Right, that's how
Exactly.
we'll figure
Something's
out what's
obviously
working
working.
at your
Yeah,
school
something's
that we
working.
can utilize.
Right.
And the other thing, too, is that a lot of times, like, you think there's not truancy.
Well, I know that
Right.
there
It's
is,
not
because
on
I
the level
just
that we
sat
see it.
on a loss of credit hearing
Oh,
board.
okay. Mm-hmm.
But it's at a very small
Mhm.
scale. Yeah,
Right.
I think we had 6 or 7 cases we had to look at.
Yeah. So so I think that's that makes sense.
Right.
And so you can be assisting.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. Like, for example, you're talking about urban school. You're suburban. And so now part of this problem of practice, is it a social justice problem? Is it an economic problem? Is it a school governance problem?
Right.
Is it
And I can look at it from that angle. The other thing that I can possibly do, because I live in New Haven and my children go to school in New Haven, is look at it through the lens of my children's school,
Yes.
where I am all the time there and know the principal well. And,
Is that Edward?
Yeah.
Great school.
I know.
It's like North Haven.
I know.
But so yes, and I think that it will come in. Projects evolve, right? They come, they evolve, which is a little unnerving, because everybody, we all want to have our little piece, and we want to know it, and this is what we're doing, and that's what it'll be like. But as you know, in our classrooms,
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
it's not necessarily
good.
like that. But I'm here, and I will help you. And if you have any questions, you let me know, and we'll work through it. If it comes to pass that there are modifications that need to be made because it's just not working, then we'll do that too. The idea is not to be inflexible, but to provide you with really a good project that's authentic,
Right.
that will, that has legs for you as a burgeoning leader. Okay. Other questions about that? All right.
So I have one, sorry. The final presentation could be in any form we want it to be in. It doesn't it could be a PowerPoint for technically savvy people, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, or
It does not have to be. It does. And there's no constraint to what the presentation.
I'm not against the PowerPoint anyway, but I'm just saying.
I want to see the interpretive dance.
No. Like, you'll have a PowerPoint,
Homemade
but
movie.
I thought some, perhaps some role playing.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
No, I think that's great. I mean-
climate, you definitely can.
Yeah, and it says here, utilize adult learning strategies. So, role play is an excellent way to do that. And especially, from your perspective, yes, I mean, that's wonderful in terms of what it is that you're thinking about. Yeah. No, you should feel free. Be innovative. Take risks, All right?
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. So now, let's go to the part about what has happened to you here at EDL. Right? What has happened to you? And I'm just going to stand up because I want to write down. So I've got here the list of your program, the courses that you took.
The time has flown, and yet 680 seems so long ago.
All right. So I want to know, what was 680 about?
I don't remember. Was that the concept map?
Concept.
That was the
Florida?
concept
That's
map.
leadership.
That's right.
That was the
Concept
leadership perspective.
All right,
What type
concept
of learner
map,
are
was the
you, or
concept
not learner?
leadership.
I did a grant in that
Did
class.
that scale, or is that
Yeah,
the wrong
yeah,
one?
No,
that's-
that was
that's
the other one.
Grant.
That's
Oh,
the
the other
that's
one.
the other
Okay.
the other. Some teacher had them
I
had a
did a
whole
grant.
group do a grant.
Yeah,
I
we did
remember
That must have
that.
been Dr. Magno.
No,
Oh, so
yes,
680
it was
was
for me.
not
Vasquez
for
leaving.
me.
No.
We all had to do
No,
a
that
grant.
was
Every
Corda.
single
Oh,
student
we had
in
to do
my
the
class.
681
concept
was
map.
that.
We
Yeah.
had to do
Okay.
the concept.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
So, okay, these are the things you did. What was it really about? What were you learning
Oh,
there?
do you remember the physics bit?
Yeah, well, it was the
Meg.
development
Meg
of the
Wheatley.
leader.
Not like Meg.
We're
I
learning
hated that
leadership
Yeah.
styles, I felt.
Well,
I think it was a
That was
681.
681.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
Okay.
Wait,
Sorry.
so we weren't learning
I
leadership?
thought we were. I got a book.
In
It was-
681. In 681,
In
we had
681, you did all
communication, the importance of
communication,
communication.
leadership styles, the type of personality that you are, like the coding, the
Right. We had to take that inventory.
LT,
Yes, yes.
SJ, K, P,
Oh,
whatever.
right.
Myers-Briggs.
I do
Yeah,
remember
that-
discussing something
That was
like
680,
that.
wasn't it?
680.
No,
that was 681.
And
Oh.
styles. I mean, just leadership styles. But maybe I'm
Yeah.
with Dr. Magno.
Yes.
I'm sure they all kind of.
What was?
Yeah.
What
Same,
else
yeah.
was in?
It
Went
was
over the
leadership
lines.
styles did come up in 680 because we
Yeah.
talked about managers versus
Right.
leaders.
Versus
And yeah.
leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did do that. Yeah, we
discussed
we
Gandhi
talked
in that
about
class,
we talked
right?
about like the stagnant what was it called the system that doesn't change. I can't remember the
becomes
wording.
stagnant.
Were you all on the
There was a
same
wording.
Mm-mm.
No, but if you had Dr. Corder, it's the
I
same.
didn't have to.
I can't remember what it was called though. There was an actual
But you have to change to grow, otherwise you just get stagnant and die.
right. Yeah, and he talked
Is it
about
entropy?
well, it's like an assembly line type thing, and it related it to Henry Ford and the production and how companies will expand their thought and expand their business in innovation.
Yes.
Or if you don't, then you're going to
Was
just
that seeing things from the balcony?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
up
the
on the
balcony is
balcony.
over here.
No, in
No, that
680.
was
No, that
what
was
680.
yeah, that
was.
was 680, I think. Yeah,
That's Linsky.
yeah.
That's, see, look at me,
Balkansky.
Falconsky.
Falcons.
What's my last
I was
name?
like, oh, she's just combining the words.
That's right, well, that's it.
Falconsky.
Okay, so we'll keep going. What happened after that? We had 680.
2
Four.
and 3.
Six,
Those
what
are-
happened to
More.
683?
Those
That's the
there.
CAD exams.
The 683 was the CAD exam. That was which one?
That's
That was the
school-
evaluation.
No, 682 is evaluation. 683 is the
SSP.
yeah, your school improvement.
That's with
Yeah.
Lystra, right?
Yeah,
That-
that was,
yeah.
yeah.
I
that's true.
had
No, actually, 683
683
Is it the other way around?
Yeah, supervision and
Supervision
evaluation.
and evaluation.
And that was
Yeah.
Lystra, though, right?
No.
That was,
No, so we had what was her name?
Oh.
What was her name?
Dr. Lavas?
No.
I had.
That's
No,
what I had.
No, we had
we blocked
Your
it.
favorite teacher?
682 is then
What did we
SSP,
have?
682?
school improvement.
Yes, what
That
was
was
her name?
682.
What was her name?
You can't remember it either.
But if I saw, I mean,
She
I
was in
recognize
Milford,
it in
a
a second.
superintendent in Milford, right?
Oh, I had her
You were
too.
there. You were
My
with
Not in
us.
that class. I had her for
Kramer.
something
I'm
else.
Kramer.
Yes.
Kramer.
Kramer.
And I had,
We had her for that, and then we had Richardson.
Richardson.
Richardson for 680.
Yeah.
No, we had Richardson for school improvement,
Uh,
and then we had
Well, I didn't.
I'm
Yeah,
Madonia.
I think I had
I am
Richardson for
Madonia
six.
for 682.
For
I had
682.
And this is
and then we
Kramer.
had
Kramer.
Madonia together.
but not for all of
You
us.
were
And
gonna
I
say
had-
that's
yeah.
right. Anybody
Yeah.
have
I had-
Dr.
I
Lewis?
had Dr.
Baby
Lewis.
Davis.
Okay.
Dr. Madonia.
Okay, here, this is Madonia.
Yes.
Okay,
And that was all about
Those were all about
Those
cats.
were
Yes,
cats.
they were.
so they were all about cat.
Although I didn't
Again,
get, I didn't get a lot in the school improvement as far. I mean, I did the whole project, but I don't think, like, when I took 683 with Dr. Lavas, it was like, here's the test, we're gonna practice it. Here's the test, we're gonna practice it. Here, and it was like you just did the test, like you do, you know,
Over and over. Yeah.
over and the 682 with the school improvement, it was like I developed, you know, a whole project around, you know, a problem of practice, and like I developed it in my own individual school, and then looked through the SSPs or the SIPs, like going back years and like showing like you know, a trend and, you know, working in that. So I did like, but that was a whole semester long 25-page paper.
Right.
Yes.
It
It was a
wasn't.
lot of work.
It was a lot of work. It wasn't like
Actually
here's
practice.
here's
So
the
it wasn't so much cat then. I mean, you know, the intent was to provide you opportunity for cat application.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Right,
Yes.
but by giving you an
But
authentic.
it was totally useful when I sat down to take the cat.
Okay.
Writing that paper, I thought
Oh,
was
yeah.
Right,
excellent.
because you see
I
it now
think it's-
from
Right.
Well,
it was completely applicable, but when I went into the class, I was hoping it was going to be just like, because I'd be like, all right, here's the thing, now I do it. Okay, here's another one, now I do it.
Well,
now I do it.
you had taken this class first.
Yeah, I took that
So you
class
already
first.
you had kind of an expectation
Right.
that it was going to.
That's what I was hoping, and it was like, what the heck? Now I do a 30-page paper.
well, I
We
had
were-
to say
We
I
took
was
them
so glad I
exactly
got
at
a
the
sounds like
teacher.
depending on the
That's
professor,
semester.
though, you had a very different
Right.
experience.
Well,
because
that always happens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for
Which I didn't
683,
have that
we
experience
only
now.
had one practice with the
we
cat.
did.
Oh, we did like 6.
Would have been nice.
It was like
Fun.
we watched like 5, 6 different videos, elementary, middle, second. It was like every.
Mark, it doesn't matter. We all have
Yeah, I know. It's,
But for the school improvement, for the class that I was in, which was a different class than you were in, I felt that I had a better understanding of sort of globally
Yes.
School improvement rather than just sort of a
Yes.
focus. This is what my school does, and that was really helpful in taking the cat. Though I didn't have to write a 25-page.
Yeah.
I would never have gotten I never would have really sat down and taken that exam with the idea, look for the big picture.
Right.
Yes.
I never
yes.
would have if I had not taken that class.
Yes, me too. I agree with that, even though we were in different
Richardson,
classes.
Yeah.
The 683 was a different.
That it was hard the first couple of times when we said, this is the problem, this is the problem, this is the problem. She said, no, it's not. You have to look
Right.
bigger.
Yeah, for the 682.
Yeah.
And that's a very instructive and important
Right.
point, you know, because we are so used to being in our
Yeah.
realm. And I mean, a lot of times, you know, I create
Yeah.
this, you know, this is me.
Yeah.
I am the center of the universe, right? No, each of us is the center of the universe. You know, here's our family and our closest people. Here are our, you know, our communities, which are what? Our workplaces, maybe our religious organizations, hobby groups, you know, the NASCAR people that we're all involved in, whatever it may be, right? And then, you know, and it goes out further and further. And I think that, you know, as teachers, we maybe think, you know, teacher counselors who are really first line responders, I don't know, we're kind of here. And every now and then we feel like policies and laws come at us from out there. But as an administrator, as a leader, you end up really starting to look beyond. And if this is municipal, right, then this is going to be state, and then this will be federal, and then they'll be global, and someday they'll be universal. I mean, is that right? Universal to universe. Yeah. So,
That's interesting because the circle that you just drew made me remember 680 for a second. And I
Yes.
remember one of the little tasks that we had in the first class was to create a picture of our school on paper. And the majority of the students in the class did a very sort of hierarchy structure.
right.
And I remember drawing a circle because I really felt that the principal in our school is very fluid and the department chairs are connecting always to the teachers and it always kind of goes around and there's no, I mean, even though I certainly think of the principal as the leader of the school, I think of it as a much more sort of circular arena in our school. And that was really eye-opening to me to think that already I'm thinking a little differently than perhaps a traditional school would think. And I really remember feeling, for many of these classes that I've been through because of my arts focus, that I have a much better understanding of how, not traditional, just public schools work, because we're so very different.
Right.
And it's important for me to understand those differences, which I didn't have a sense except for my own children going to school.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I just remember that being the first class and drawing it in a circle. So that just made me think of that because that was a long time ago. 680 feels like.
It is a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
For me, anyhow, I only took one class a semester, so
Right. So that is a very long time. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's keep carrying on. We'll go back to let's just try and just recall. So we did 682, 683. Then there was 684.
Then it was the summer. We were in the summertime and we took a couple classes in the summer.
Villar.
What did you take?
We took Villar curriculum and we
curriculum
took
684.
Richardson again.
Richardson
This is the
was
Yeah.
Theory.
learning
Yeah.
theory.
685 is
Okay.
curriculum.
Yep, and 684 is learning
I
theory.
took learning theory with your principal, wasn't
With my principal?
Yes.
You did? How was he?
it? It's fine.
He's a good principal.
What's it called?
Here, I have the names. Here's the names. This is from 3 years ago.
Learning theory into practice.
Yeah.
I
I remember curriculum, and I can't think for the life of
I mean,
me.
what did we do? at
We
We
684?
did like
684.
behavior.
But it was really good 'cause we actually set up a
Learning all about
curriculum.
Pavlov.
Yeah, we did.
Pavlov,
yeah.
Pavlov,
Pavlov, all that
The
stuff.
law,
Wait
you
a
did
minute, are you
the
guys trying 684, 6? Let's do
684.
one more.
684 learning theory.
Yeah, so what did we learn there?
Learning theory.
A lot of good things for the cat too.
Oh, you guys did the
actually.
Spanish lesson and stuff. Was that the class that you
Yep.
Yes, we
that?
did.
That was good.
We
Yes,
did the Pavlov,
We did.
Yes, oh, that was so great.
the tank.
Yes.
I don't remember that class at all. I couldn't tell you for the life of me.
We had a good time.
We had,
That was
yeah, that
good
was
fun.
fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Constructionism, I
Yes,
remember.
construction.
The book was very bad.
I
That's
don't
all
know why I
can say.
remember
Which book was it?
constructionism.
It was
Learning
dry.
theory.
It was dry.
Very
It was very dry. That's one line.
But we had
Was
a
it
good
a
time.
learning
hardcover
theory
book?
was
Yeah.
dry.
Oh, yes. That
But we had
book.
a good time.
I remember the book.
What were the other theories? There were many more.
Yeah.
No.
Behaviorism.
Behaviorism. There you go. Behaviorism.
Yeah.
This really good.
I can't remember what I took it with.
I used that when I went in to take the CAP. I
You did?
I did. I
Which
totally
one?
used it in the evaluation in understanding learning styles when looking at what's going on with the kids and whether or not the teachers are getting at different aspects of learning theory.
Now, I want you to know that I'm just writing things. I'm just writing your impressions down, so I'm not writing anything in
It's a
any
little
order.
foggy.
All right, so 685
Did that for
curriculum.
observation.
Oh,
yeah.
And
was-
balance
Yeah, we
curriculum.
balanced curriculum with
Okay.
Dr.
Squires.
Squires.
And we
We had
did
Villar.
understanding by
Match
design.
standards.
We did a little bit of UBD, but yeah.
A lot on him.
What was his called?
What?
UBD?
UBD.
No,
and
no,
UBD.
Balanced curriculum.
Balanced
Was that with his
Balanced
one?
curriculum with Dr. Squires.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Dr.
it was.
And connected that to standards,
Yeah.
current standards.
Aligned and balanced.
Aligned and balanced.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You had to we made a curriculum with the
Oh, yeah.
individual significant task. I think you were in my
I
class.
was. That's why I keep looking.
Yeah. The significant tasks that.
Basic
Yeah.
lessons around the significant tasks.
Right.
They have to be ongoing. It's not just a task that's done in one day. It needs
Right.
to be something that is like a project. a
It
mini
takes
project.
up like 60% of the time.
Yep.
Right. That was
Um,
interesting.
And it's designed in a way where it's very useful to the student, where
Right.
they gain, they find usefulness in it, so that it sticks with them.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember the significant tasks. Really
It made the
Yeah.
importance of a curriculum hit home. I think that a lot of us are lacking in that area.
That's what my master's is in. I love that course.
You
That's
love this.
That's what when I started going to grad school, my ideal at that point, back when I was 24, I said I wanted to be a curriculum coordinator. Like I want to work in a curriculum setup and then eventually work in like a publishing company for books
Yep.
while I was developing different curriculums. That was my thing that I wanted to do. So I loved that course because it was like it's
Opened
everything.
your eyes to
Right, it's everything that I did for my master's. I had to make a curriculum and everything, so it was interesting to see different ways of making it.
Well, I was writing significant tasks in between contractions of my
I was just
work.
gonna say.
So your
At
wife
which point-
remembers nothing.
At
of
which
it.
point, Dr. Villar said, "Put the computer away
Yes,
and
right.
go deal with your wife."
Indeed.
We
That
had
was
a-
good advice.
Yeah, but he has what, 5 or 6 kids?
Well,
So-
it was also 27 hours of labor, so I had some time.
She whiz.
Was it 27 or 23? 23.
Ask your wife, I bet.
She'll definitely
She remembers every
remember.
second.
All right, 687 and 88. I'm going to put them together. What was that?
Internship.
We're still doing ours.
Still doing it.
Still doing it.
Okay. So what's this about? What's the internship thing about?
A lot of hours.
Yeah, a lot of clerical.
A lot of clerical
Yeah, a lot
stuff.
of keeping logs.
Mine's unlike anyone's. I
Yeah,
know,
it was quite-
because I don't have anyone. I don't have a cooperating individual in my building. My district won't sign off on anything.
Are we working with you on this?
I don't know. Like I said when I called you that day to ask you, it was because Dr. Lava sent me an email. So I emailed her right back, waited 10 minutes, called her voicemail. She didn't pick up. So I called you. And then you walked over and asked her the question that I wanted to ask her and gave me the answer. And I was like, I don't understand what it is. This woman doesn't want to respond back to me. It's like, I don't know.
I have, actually, but you know what it was is that I think she was busy. She was going to a meeting because I caught her in the hall on the way out.
Okay.
So,
It's been like, she came to my school, talked with my principal, talked to the superintendent, talked to people that she knows in my central office. They're just not on board with it. I don't know. I haven't submitted anything. I haven't done. I've just been doing. She said to me to work with what I was already doing, which was data teams, and I'm the data technician. So I've been doing things with that, as far as reviewing common formative assessments and trying to analyze them in that sense. But that's what I already do normally.
anyway,
I haven't done anything,
sort of out of your realm.
No.
Okay.
and I don't really have any guidance anywhere.
Okay, so Tom, we need to work with you on that. So you and me, we'll reconnoiter offline.
Okay.
All right.
I've
The
been
one
doing-
thing I loved about the internship is it got me to do that community service project, which I would have never probably done. And it was such a success that I'm bringing it back again, and now incorporating another group of people coming in during the school day. See, at Hill House, we don't really have a health curriculum, so we wonder why we have so many
New
kids.
Haven doesn't have that.
Yeah, New Haven doesn't have a health curriculum, so we constantly have teen pregnancy, and we just, we send kids to Polly McKay. That's what we do. So this program I did was a Street Smarts program, and it really allowed some people to come in and talk to the students about, say, sex and some of these other different things, healthy relationships. I mean, it was a broad range, good stuff.
Absolutely.
And it was, I guess, informing, but also terrifying to see the myths and what these kids thought. I mean, as high school students, almost with no clue.
Yeah.
And that's scary because we already have issues with that. And the first group I did it with was the straight A, really good, females. I thought, these kids are going to know everything. And it was amazing to see how off it was. So it gave me a reason, like, I got to do this for more kids.
Right. So you got inspired by
I got
that.
inspired. I'm doing it now again in the spring, and I'm also having a group come in during school.
So, so what is this? This is the power of kind of overlapping institutional force, because you're bringing in people to talk about this from other organizations, right? And so that's a wonderful thing to know and to learn. How do you tap into the community? How do you tap into, these other folks who are out there who are there to support students, teachers, schools, communities, etc. So that's great. Yeah, Ingrid.
I applied for a grant from the State Department of Education, got the grant, and ran the program.
for this.
Yeah.
So you did soup to nuts. Grand app. Money. Doo-doo.
That's a fairly large grant.
200K.
Yeah, you saw it on the resume.
I did.
So, and it's successful. It brings it. I just did the breakdown today, actually, because the final report is due, and we had 367 middle school students come through our school on Friday when we don't have class. I know that's really weird, but we don't have class on Fridays, and so our building is free. And I, you know, it was very successful. It was hard to prove in a 2-day-a-week program. The two mandates for to get the money for the grant has to prove academic success and racial integration. The academic success is, though I know it's happening, is hard to prove when a student only comes through for 2 days of 6 hours.
Well, and not only that, there are so many confounding factors. Like if you were really to do a study, it would be hard to know. Is it really this program, or is it other things in that individual's life? So
Right.
from a methodological point of view, it's hard to.
Right. So that was hard in writing the grant. You know, because so much is about assessment and so much is about taking a test, and our program isn't about that.
Right.
But it's been, and we're going to continue. We hope it was. The original money was slashed in half, though.
Yeah.
So, but I anticipate that in writing it. So.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good
It was
for you.
good. It was great.
So that's
And
a
it'll
very.
continue. It's going to have a summer component now.
So this is the field component. Let's keep carrying on. So that was it, and then you're here at 689.
Mm-hmm.
What's this course about?
Bringing it up.
Tying it back together. Okay. So, it's interesting in some ways to think about, like, you look at this and you say, well, I remember things that happened. Now, Jane, did you take all of these courses too?
I did, but it's been like, I've been working on this off and on for 7 years, and so I'm thinking, what was that all about?
Right.
And then when you start talking about it, it's like, yeah, I can certainly remember. I can remember it. Yes, I have taken it.
Right. So, we can continue to revisit these much more formally, and in terms of what were the concepts, what were the objectives that these courses were supposed to teach, and really, I think what's most important, like now that you are at the end of this path, what have they done for you as you move into the leadership space, right? That's the real thing. Learning theory is a tough one because many of the, I think the text that you all were using was just very focused on learning theory, children in classrooms, as opposed to what does an administrator need to know about learning theory?
Right.
As he or she guides his their instructional staff, and what is important to know for parents, for community.
Well, I think Dr. Richardson really did bring that as our presentations had to be, we were teaching adults because she wanted us to see the difference or similarities to how adults learn and students learn. So
Good.
I know she kept pushing that, this isn't that you're not teaching your kids here, you're
It's
teaching your
andragogy.
Like PD,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, don't get up there and talk for 10 straight minutes and lecture because you can start losing people. Make sure you have little things for them to do, which works for kids too, but she.
Yeah, I think. So that's good.
Interactive, she wanted.
But when you step away from this, you think, okay, at 680, I'm learning about leadership styles. A huge part of that was vision.
Yes.
Remember?
Yeah, that's right.
And so, why is vision so important? Does it really, what is it about vision in a leader?
It's what makes the mission.
That's right. If you don't know where you're going, you're not going to get there.
But there's the organization's vision, and then there's the leader's vision, right? And so how does that?
Which should be
Together.
But a leader's vision is not just the organization's vision, right?
Right.
Because your vision as a leader has to include, so the organization's vision is what? Can anybody give a general sense about like what your organization's mission, your school's mission and vision are? What?
To promote student growth, to be a lifelong learner, to be a contributor to society, positive contributor to society and the community.
Right.
Preparatory school.
Yeah.
That's,
Even
that's
in
the
small
vision.
students will go to college.
Okay.
That's it?
Well, no, that's not it, but that's.
I mean, it's a big,
It's a
it's a big
major part
portion.
of it
So
now.
very student focused, right? And about, about supporting the success of students. So as a leader in that context, in an organization that has that mission/vision, we can conflate it. What's the vision of the leader? That's part of the vision, right? It's a key part. That's that's sort of an end goal. But what's the vision of the leader? It's not a trick question. Just trying to, and it's okay, we're just trying to elicit and think back.
School. I think it depends on the school that you're in. Like I know my current principal came in with an idea, and she's been very successful at this and changing the viewpoint of the community about our school.
Okay.
And she's very big on PR and getting the name out there, as opposed to where it was sort of seen, like the way our school used to be looked at, and it was a place sort of, it still kind of is in some ways, it's a place to send your kids that aren't real learners. But she's done a lot of work in like getting our name in the paper for whatever it is, doing a lot of community service for like, we ran tournaments for like breast cancer awareness, we got a football team this year. There's a lot of kids that went out and did community service in our National Honor Society. We participate in Skills USA, which is like a huge community thing.
Good. And so let me stop you there for a second, right? So you're saying part of her vision is to do public relations
Right.
and to focus on these many things that the schools are doing so that the public has a different perception.
So they see the good that.
Well, and that's so important, especially in VOTech, because you're in danger of disappearing if somebody doesn't get some enrollment in there and
Okay, so
Yeah.
part of the vision is making sure that we
Yeah.
have enrollment and that we're
Right.
administratively secure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What else? What are other parts of the leader's vision? And not just doesn't have to just be a building principal, but let's talk principal. What are other parts of that leader's vision? What else is he or she doing as they guide the school, as they're at the helm, the wheel, the ship is moving?
I think they want to, at our school, he wants to promote the idea that this is a safe place to come,
Okay.
and that you're really sending your children to this school because they're going to get individual attention, and it's a family community.
Okay.
So we care about each other. We've got individual attention. It's safe, and that's what
So we have a strong school climate that is nurturing. Part of that has to do with this individualized attention, which I'm going to assume is academic attention, as well as sort of physical health attention, as well as social emotional attention, right? So this leader is trying to manage all of those different things. And what's instrumental in making sure that climate and that environment exists in that way, in this nurturing, intellectual, physical, and social, emotionally supportive way.
To get the teachers on board and to feel that same way and to want it to be that way. I know, that's a huge problem in my school. My principal's got a whole list of problems that, I don't think anybody should have to deal with, but, he preaches, family, and that's his big thing. And, for years, we've always been a close-knit group, but around sports. Sports is what's held our school together. It's because it's the thing we're successful in. However, I'm sure you've all seen the negative press and all that stuff. So he's kind of been on like crowd control lately, really trying to put out fires in rumors that are out in the community. But through that, I think because he's putting out those fires, he's now losing the teachers. and the teachers are getting worn out and don't feel like they're getting what, and because of that, you've seen the climate of the school take a dip.
And what do they want from this individual? Because what I think I hear you saying is that he's not leading in a way at the moment.
Well,
he may not be enough people. You know what I mean? Like there's not enough of him, or it's a him.
It's a
Yeah.
There may not be enough of him, but he's focused over
I
here.
think they don't feel supported. I think he's made it perfectly clear from the get-go that it's kids first, which I agree should be, the leading factor. However, it now seems like it's kids only, and it almost feels like the students get all the support, even if they're not doing the right thing at the time. However, the administration kind of looks at it as a principal's perspective. The teacher's perspective is kind of just deal with it. Think about these kids first. But, everybody has egos, and sometimes you need to be able to maneuver through those and get people to work. I think if you have a teaching staff who buys into the vision of the school and is going to work hard because they believe in what you believe in, that's a power. That's a whole different power, because now you can have 100 administrators in the building because everybody's focused and working towards the same thing. And it's gotten separated, and it's sad because so many good things happened last year, and now it's taken a step back again. And I don't know if the administration would agree with me. They might see it differently.
Right.
But as somebody in the trenches and somebody who's taken this course and kind of seeing it from a different perspective as a normal teacher, I think we went back, and I kind of feel bad for the guy because it was a lot to take on.
Well, and so Hill House is a tough space, and there's a lot going on, and the kinds of things you're talking about. So, I don't know what exactly the teachers are wanting when you say they don't feel supported. Is it that they don't have instructional support? Is it that they don't have just sort of general emotional support? That they don't, they don't feel safe? These are any of the things that teachers could feel. And so, getting back to 680 and this, what were we learning in that class? Part of what we really were learning, or that we're teaching in the class, is as a leader, you've got to get a grip on the context of education and what it is that you're doing when you're steering a ship, whether it's a small ship, like as a department chair or something, or a bigger ship, vice principal, principal, dean of students, superintendent, bigger ship, etc. What is it that you are leading?
Right.
And how do you lead it? And you've got an organization which is like a physical structure and an administrative structure. Then you've got all these people that populate it. So now you've got human resources that you've got to deal with, and you've got to lead, that you've got to inspire, that you've got to shape, etc. So that course is about providing you, in part, I'm saying this, and we'll talk more about what it really did provide, but part of what I want to say that it provided you with is, helping you try and see what is leadership like. Wheatley. Who hated Wheatley? Hated.
Well, actually, at first, yeah.
At first, and then...
I like Wheatley.
I couldn't get through
I was all into that.
It was hard to read, but
Wheatley
thinking about it
was
was
like
interesting.
Physics person.
Yeah.
In 680.
I gave up
Can I
towards the end. I
make
just
Wheatley?
listened to what you guys had to say.
Can I
because
say
was so
something?
lost.
Yeah.
Because you using the symbol of a ship, I know we talked about this in my first class. My principal actually used the symbol of a ship the first day he became principal, and we were all in that auditorium, and he said, we're getting on the ship together today. He said, many of you all had the opportunity to leave the ship over the summer.
Oh, they didn't.
And he said, you're here today because you want to get on the ship, and we're going one direction, and the oars are all going one direction, and we're in this together. And it was he has that coaching background, and I saw where he was going with it, and I was inspired by it. I saw teachers that, were the teachers that fight tooth and nail for anything, started being like, okay, all right, he's going to put these deans in places so behavioral issues are out, and I saw, he really did a great job, and for that first half of the first year, we were all going in that direction.
And this was his metaphor.
This was his
he
metaphor.
Had a
He used
vision,
the ship.
his metaphor on the ship.
Right, but the issue I'm struggling with in my mind is, because if I go into a school and, I do the same thing and I really get the ship rolling, I don't want to see the ship turn around like what he dealt with. And what I'm more interested in is what turned the ship around.
Well, you want to be interested in that.
So, but it's hard because there's so many factors at Hill House.
Well, that a lot of it is bad press. I mean, there's some
the
big
press,
things that have
that's
been
all
out.
this year. We had unbelievable press all last year.
Right.
And then there was good press, but the people inside the building were going, yeah, no, not so fast. You guys, we're still getting that real good hype and all that, but you're not in here now. It's starting to turn. And then, this year it's been a whole different
I think
ballgame,
teacher
but-
morale and culture is dropping everywhere. Even in my building, which is a nice suburban building, the teacher morale is at an all-time low. Everybody's complaining about the climate. 2 years ago, we were in a great place, but with all the things that are happening out there in the media, and teachers are feeling undervalued, and they're feeling like disrespected, and like their jobs are on the line, and parents don't think they're worth it, and they're not getting support from anywhere. And we have a supportive principal, and I think he's trying really hard. But it's a lot to combat. All of this that's coming at us from the outside.
Do you think that's mostly because
I was going to say, I totally agree with you. I know, like, we had Wright Tech and Stanford that closed down, and all the schools had to sort of, like, infuse people.
Yeah, absorb everybody.
We brought in, like, I think there was, like, 17 kids, and since that happened, it's been, like everything. We used to have, like, 4 or 5 kids from Bridgeport. Now we have, like 35, 40. And it just, bringing in these kids from the lower socioeconomic backgrounds, it completely has changed everything, because our principal is one who's very, rules oriented. She likes to put the hammer down and tries to enforce everything, and these kids are just outwardly defiant. And there's nothing that you can do to get them to stop. And when the other kids see it, who before were just like, I don't really want to do it, but they do it. Now are like, well, if he's not going to do it, then I'm not going to do it. And they,
so it's a tidal culture shift.
right. It's the whole thing changes, and then you get, what's the point of like, sending them to the office because they're just going to come back with a pass saying they have a detention,
But
and
see,
then go to it.
And this is where I say to you, and I will say this to you over and over, okay, you step into that space, you're the leader. What do you do?
What do you do about it?
What do you do? What's going to be your...
boggle my mind with that
I understand.
all day, every day.
I say this to myself sometimes, because like I love to look at the world, I love to be critical, etc. And I think to myself, if I were the queen of the world, how would I fix it? Really. And I think that's the question that I want to ask. And then I think it's not the right question. I think Jane is thinking it's not the right question.
It's not that it's not the right question. I think it is the right question. You have to stand back and say, can we fix it?
Well, that's it.
Is this really fixable? Parts of it might be fixable, but not all of it.
Yeah,
And you
it's
have
not
to be able
fixable.
to say, how much of this can I really fix? And how much of this do I have to let go?
And there is that. And so, those are all of the kinds of things that, what does your principal
Well, this
do?
is the thing. The teachers are feeling less supported by him now, but I think the pressure is as much on him as it is on everybody else. I think that the pressures are intense right now for educators, and everybody is worried about what's coming after Wisconsin, after Rhode Island, after what happened in New Haven. That scares the heck out of everybody.
It should.
Yeah.
Do you think that's? The big shift has been the standardized tests and how they meet everything. Do you think that I think that's a big pressure because everything in New Haven is being driven by these tests, where every kid's going to college. Okay, that's what they said. Okay,
Well, I think the pendulum's going to swing.
I understand that, but I'm sorry. What do you mean by that?
What I mean is that I think that we're finding, like after we're at the tail end of No Child Left Behind,
Right.
and I think we're finding that. And now again, let's talk about the ship. We don't have to maintain the ship metaphor. It's one I'm comfortable with, but the whole idea, like it's hard to turn the Titanic around. It takes a long time, and it's not a turn on the dime kind of thing. It's kind of a slow turn. You know, we've had No Child Left Behind in this era of accountability. We're seeing that we don't, you know, we've had a shift in the way, as a result of that administration, a shift in the way we've thought about research. And we've done a lot more quantitative research where we're doing survey things and looking at data, and it's numeric data, but it's not qualitative data. So we know a lot about what, but we don't know why.
Right.
And so I think what's happening is that we're beginning to see, you know, we need to know more about why. But when we talk about instruction, we need to learn how to, you know, our kids are not cookie cutters, and that the kinds of, did we do the RSA Animate video? We should do it in this class. Remind me to put that up on the
Just because I see
Black
so many of my kids who they have no aspiration whatsoever to go to college, zero. They don't have any aspiration to go to school.
They don't have any aspiration to do
They go
anything.
because it's legal. You know, legally they're bound to go. So why not take these kids, find something they're interested in that could make them a productive citizen in the community, and let them run with it.
But the
I mean,
state's
that's what
trying
you
to
said-
do that
that's
with
what you
SSPs.
Right.
Okay, so here, say that.
I
Say
mean,
about
the
that.
SSP is coming down the pike. That's July 1st. We have to have those in place for all of the state schools, and that's part of the link is finding that niche, finding that connection that they may have, and every student's going to have a different connection, which we understand, and you know, finding that and working with that for the 4 years or grade
Well,
6
that's a
through
good
12.
start, but
So
everything's
it's
still based on passing the CAPT exam and now going to college in New Haven.
right, but this is going to be a big piece that everyone has to be. I mean, it's a state mandate, so
No, I
everyone has to be a
understand,
part
but-
of it. So everyone has their own profile.
So
their
when
own
their
plan.
profile's given, then that's what T-Val should be all about now. Them reaching that goal as opposed to them reaching the academic achievements.
Well,
'Cause
it'll
we're
be,
now
that's going to be part of it.
Right.
And
Yeah,
now
but
the other thing too that we have to think about here in Connecticut is like right now for K-12, I mean, in addition to having, you know, complete reorganization of higher education in terms of the higher ed administration, you know, that there are going to be a lot of reverberations at the university and college levels. We now have Stephen Pryor, who has just reorganized the
Reorganized
entire
the whole
Department of
department.
Education,
Mhm.
and we're going to have, you know, and they are currently applying for a No Child Left Behind waiver,
Right.
so that we do not have to step to the federal government's lines. That now, you know, what Pryor wants is he wants to show success by growth. So if you're at 7 and you move to 10,
You grew.
you grew, and that's good. And I think that makes much more sense.
I agree.
And you know, so
I mean, it's. Oh, God, I keep cutting. It's my MO. Go ahead.
no, but I mean, I think that. So what I think is that, you know, we did our class talk about the pendulum and how it swings back, and maybe my policy class. But the idea is that, you know, we spiral around back to different kinds of initiative, et cetera. And so, you know, that's why you'll hear people, especially older folks who've been in the trenches a long time. Oh, we did that,
Right.
and now we're back to it. It's got a new name, et cetera. Because we do that. We come back around.
And I think every school does that. Like when you look at, you know, the data at the beginning of the year and you say, okay, here's your math scores, here's your, you know, whatever, your reading comprehension and this and that. And you see a trend where, you know, like math scores were good, and then all of a sudden, like this year in ours, our focus is on reading and understanding, because we went from like 67, almost 68% achieving goal down to like 29. So it was, you know, there was this huge drop. But the previous years, it
Your
was
initiative was all on math.
right. The initiative was on math, so math was like good, and then you didn't focus on it. So now this one off. So now we're gonna go back to this, and then we focus, and then this goes up, and then math's gonna fall down. You know, it's the same thing over and over
But
and
you
over.
think about it. I mean, think about the world. It seems to me that the universe is about spirals, ripples, and branches. I mean, I mean, if we were to kind of reduce things down, and this might be sort of Wheatley-esque or something, but
Chaos theory.
yeah, you know, I mean, that those things replicate in our social structure, and that's what Wheatley was about. Now let's go back to this whole coursework, because yes, all of these problems exist. All of these problems have existed since time immemorial in educational spaces, right? And in other kinds, social spaces, period. You know, human beings are a mess. We don't know how to get along. We don't know how to do what we're supposed to do. And we try to govern ourselves, and, you know, like it sort of works maybe. But in terms of you as leaders and how you are going, you know, you are going to be driving your respective ships, right, in the big fleet of life. And so, how do you do that, and what are the skills and the tools that you use? Now, up here, we have this whole toolbox of looking at leadership styles. Are you going to be a servant leader? Are you going to support your people by being, letting them do what they need to do, and it's your job in terms of your leadership vision to just be there for them and to give them the opportunity to do what they need to do, but just being completely supportive? Will you be a servant leader? Will you be a domineering leader, authoritarian leader, where, it's my way or the highway? Are you going to be a leader who is interested in, significant transformative change that makes people uncomfortable, like pushing them to the edge and then sort of pulling back a little bit just before they, get to the brink? Are you going to be a leader who has sort of one path? And I hope you're remembering all of these sorts of things from that course, right? Are you going to be a leader that has one path, one vision, or are you going to be very much a situational leader where, okay, today requires this response, so I'm going to go into my leadership toolbox and I'm going to take these particular tools because this is what I have to do now. That is, I think, what that course was about, was to try to help you get a sense of different leadership styles, theories of leadership throughout the ages, and then kind of where we are now, and trying to encourage you to map, through this concept map, your sort of initial sense of leadership, and then to map the changes that you hopefully encountered, or, not in any, you don't have to have changed your vision of leadership necessarily, but hopefully that course gave you a better sense and clear tools to draw upon as you go forward as a leader. So, it'd be interesting for you probably to go back and just revisit the text and see what the styles are, et cetera. And we can talk more about this throughout the semester, and we will do. We'll try and bring this into the piece. But I think, in general, if I were to say anything about that, and the whole Wheatley portion, which is so interesting, I think, is that, she is trying to say, we think, based on an industrialized model, that leadership is just, hunky-dory. You say, you plan A, and it all just works out in a kind of a linear fashion. And if it's not working out for you, it's because something's wrong with your planning. And this is a lot like No Child Left Behind.
That's exactly like No Child Left Behind, yes.
But it's not, what Wheatley's saying, it's not like that. It's much more organic. It's much more fluid. There are all of these fields and forces that you can't feel. It's very holistic. And they say when the butterfly waves its wings in Mexico, I don't know what happens. What happens?
Oh,
The angel gets his wings.
That's when the bells
The
ring.
bell rings, yes.
Yeah.
The bell rings.
That's right. The bell rings. But the whole idea
A
that
breeze
we are, it's
somewhere
all
else.
interconnected.
Something about a breeze, right?
Yeah, we'll have to look that one up. We'll look it up, the monarch butterfly. So that, I don't know if this is helpful to sort of revisit that.
Absolutely.
And to look at that. So that's, I think that was the general sense. And then this balcony notion, right? You all brought that up, looking at things from the balcony. And what was the concept in that book? You have to look at it from the balcony, but you need to step down too.
Right.
And one of the things is interesting. So I sail and I race, and one of the things that we do, and they're little boats, they're dinghies. So the worst thing to do is to have your head in the boat. Like, oh, I lost the race. I had my head in the boat. I was too focused on the details. I did not look at my context. I did not strategize. I did not do any of that kind of thing. And so, I think that's it's the same concept as not seeing the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
But the idea is that when you don't see the forest for the trees, it's just that you're not seeing a picture. When you have your head in the boat, you're missing a whole strategy. And I think that's the piece here with the leadership and the vision, that you want to be constantly strategizing. And your vision as a leader, your vision and how you communicate that to the people around you, how you comport yourself, that is you know, I mean, that's what leadership is. That's what inspirational leadership is to help people see how can they be excellent, how can they do fantastic things in the world, how can they beat the odds, how can they, I don't know, walk on water, whatever it may be, right? And that's the other thing too, is that, you know, sometimes you have to be an absolute, I don't know, all the words for it are bad. You have to be an absolute, and you have to stick it to people, and you have to, you know, maybe play bad guy and scare the heck out of them or whatever to motivate them. And part of leadership is constantly assessing.
But I think there has to
what do you
be
have to do.
that relationship built where you can scare the heck out of somebody, and then they're like, okay, I get it now. You know,
Right, you're talking about the trust. You're talking about the
trust.
trust
I guess the trust would be a good.
People have
you
to
know.
feel valued.
Right,
They
'cause
have
there's
to
that
know-
good line of
they have to
scaring the
know
heck out
you
of someone.
I
and then
know
having
right
their-
now, and it's not my head principal, but there's assistant principals that are ahead of, you know, in charge of different areas. And I know my area right now teaches out of complete fear because it's pretty much been said, you know, I will fail you on your T-val, and there's been zero support and zero. I mean,
right, and so do you perceive that as a good leadership style?
absolutely not. But I think this gentleman would say he's a really good leader.
Sure, he
You
would.
know, and he sees it as I'm just hard nosed and do it or don't do it, but you're going, and it's, I don't know.
So I mean, so
I've learned so many things on how to be a good leader by what not to do.
well, that's okay. I mean, that's part of the whole piece. When you look around, you know, you touch the hot stove once, okay.
It's a wonder as to where they come from, though, because you would think anyone that's been in a situation as a teacher, I think maybe it's like old school versus new school. I don't think anyone who's been in as a teacher since
No, I think they forgot.
maybe that is it. I don't know. But I don't think anyone who's been a teacher in the, you know, like the 2000s that's going into a leadership that could say, you know, that I have to be a hard ass to whoever is going. I just couldn't do that. Knowing what.
But what I think one of the points that's being made here is that some of us just don't have the skills. We don't have the vision. We don't have the sense of the context. And what we know, you know, I mean, what about the people who beat their children? And they say, and, you know, I mean, and we're talking about, like, you know, relative levels of beating, right? And they say, look, I came up that way, and that's what I know to do, and that's how I've got to do it, because I don't know anything else. I don't know how to be supportive, because no one was ever supportive with me. I've never had a model. And I think that in some cases, not all cases, part of what's happening is that we are constrained by our own vision and our own experiences, and we can only do what we can do. I'll give you an example. In my world right now, there are issues with a teacher. This teacher is a very good teacher. She's a great teacher, but she's a very type A, my way or the highway. If you're not attending in a clear way, I'm going to, like, keep on you until you attend. Well, that doesn't work with some kids, you know, so there are a number of kids who are just having trouble with that. Now, she can't manage, because she doesn't have the experience or the flexibility for whatever reason, she can't manage to move out of that space. Is she a bad teacher? No, she's a very good teacher. Does she manage to teach everybody? No. Is this person a bad leader? Well, you know, he's not a successful leader with his current staff because it's not working for them, right? But is he a bad leader? Not necessarily. I think, so what...
Bad leader for where they are.
Exactly. And so one of the things is like,
Situational
okay,
leadership.
exact, situational leadership and reflective leadership.
Right.
So that when I'm standing in this place and I am not being successful, we don't have to go, I mean, a lot of it has to do with the military, right? A lot of this has to do with our notions of leadership from military models. But not only. And, you know, one of the things is, well, if it's not working, I'm going to dig my heels in and just, you know, we're going to do it this way more. And I think that's less these days what it is that we want to be doing. In the 21st century, we want to be leading together, collaboratively. Things are much more collective. you know, and so that's the model that we're trying to work toward. And then there are people who just, they came up on the old school and they don't know, you know,
But
so.
should that be an excuse? You know, like a lot of people use that, like, oh, I was taught this way, like you said, and this is how it is. I don't think that should be acceptable now, like as a teacher. From a teacher, like you should be flexible. I just think everybody should.
It's not acceptable as a teacher if you continue to teach the way you're teaching and you're not getting these results that are
Right.
needed. Then the administration has a problem with what you're doing.
Right.
Well, and I think that, and so that gets into the questions, and again, you know, I mean, all of this is interconnected, but that gets into questions of communication, the difficult conversations,
Yeah, that principals don't like to have.
right, that people
Or
don't
don't know
like
how to
to
have.
Right.
that people
Alright,
don't
well,
like
maybe.
to have.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
We don't want to, but
no,
things need to be said.
But even when it's done for some people in a completely wrong way. Like you
but
don't-
what's wrong for me, like, I need kid gloves, I need you to tell me how wonderful I am, I want to be stroked, you know, right? And then there are the other people like, look, just tell me how it is, and let me try and figure it out, right? So now we move into this part, where now, okay, now we have vision, we understand that leading is very difficult, and it takes all these, you know, forms, and you want to be situational, so you got to have your toolbox, and all of that. And then it gets into, okay, well, so how do you communicate it all?
And it's different with each person. I mean, that's part of the trick, and I think we have that problem in our building. I love my principal, but there's some people that don't like him, and he refuses to not necessarily bend, you know, and agree with everything they say, but be flexible and maybe kind of stroke or whatever it is that he needs to do for those personalities. So it's just this constant battle. But if I were the leader, in that position, I would see that group of people and, you know, give them something good to do, or, you know, tell them that they did whatever it is to make them then not necessarily like me, but at least agree with some of the things I do, because
Everybody
they
likes
don't.
to be killed with kindness.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be a
Well,
way
not everybody.
and I don't think it's necessarily even kindness. I think they just need to know that he hears
Yeah,
them, or
people
whatever
need
it
to be
is
Right,
that
and
they're
so this
thinking.
is going
So
back up
he
here.
needs to-
Remember that square?
Listening.
You know, there are the people who are more relational, and there are the people who are more instrumental, etc. I mean, that's why you learned that stuff, so that you can say, oh, these are more
Right.
relationship
Right,
oriented
let me-
people.
right.
Let me,
do this differently with this group, right?
right.
It's-
But no.
If I were the leader, as you said, then I would clearly handle them differently. But
And now
he's
you're,
retiring in June, so I don't think he cares enough to
Well, that's-
worry about it either. But
so he's in the Aloha
Yeah.
suite. That's
yeah, he's like, okay, they don't like
The
me.
lame duck.
But you know, if you were a superintendent, and you have, you know, you've got your, I don't know how many principals any superintendent might have, right? But so now here's an individual that you need to develop, because you understand, okay, well, you know, this individual is really great and is on task, manages to get all these things done, etc. But you know, interpersonally,
Mhm.
he or she could really benefit from some assistance, kind of, and you know, 99% of what we all do is somehow shaped in fear. You know, we're afraid to show what we don't know. We're afraid to be weak. We're afraid to, I don't know, do the wrong thing. We're
Let
afraid to
somebody
lose our job. Exactly. So this whole, you know, it's important, I think, as people first, then leaders, etc., to kind of always address this issue of fear. What's my fear, and why am I digging my heels in, or why am I doing what I'm doing that might be negative, toxic? What about my fear, and then what about the other person's fears and needs? Yeah, but that's
I would venture to say that part of the issue in New Haven is that our students have a lack of fear. That society is changing in a way where students do not have the fear that we had growing up.
they have different fears. You know what I mean?
Yes, I understand what you mean, but it's not the fears on how education was always
Right.
based around.
There's been a shift.
There's been a shift.
No, I understand, and I guess what I'm saying is what I believe about urban students in particular, and I think the research bears it out, is that they have so many fears and pressures in their day-to-day life that, you know, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs and things, you know, school is kind of way on the back burner with all of that.
Eating.
Yeah, eating important, right? Safety.
Taking it home safely.
And mom and dad have so much on their plate probably that if you say I'm going to call home,
Doesn't mean anything.
Or if there is home.
I was gonna
Right.
say, or if
Or
mom and dad
there's-
are home.
right.
I mean, they're
Right.
usually the mom and dad of the younger siblings. Because
Or
mom and
if
dad
there's
are-
mom and dad.
Yeah,
know.
absolutely.
So there's all of that going on, and so their fears and their now, all that being said, at the same time, we should not always rush to think that that's the situation,
Yeah,
right? So it's really hard not to stereotype and to, and that's why I'm very pleased that we are trying to get at individual students as individual students more and more. I mean, it'll take us a long time, and I think it's going to take us a long time, particularly in urban cores or in pockets of at-riskness, because we don't trust those kids and those people and those communities, those kids, people, those communities. We don't trust them to be capable.
Well, I think too, just being in a city, sheer numbers plays a huge role. For example, my period 3 class has 50 what I would call normal education, normal ed. I have my Success Academy, which is 13 students who have all either been incarcerated, just out of incarcerated. I mean, you name it,
Right.
a rap sheet beyond. Basically, they put them in my class because they can't be out in the general public. They cause too much of a distraction. And then they also put in 8 severely special ed kids all into that one class. Nine. I'm sorry. One's emotionally.
You have 70
Music.
kids in a class?
It's we co-teach, but we're confined to one area, and it's just
And, I mean,
for the-
Jim could have
and-
70
for the-
students.
for the first time
Yeah.
in my life, I don't want to go to school.
Right.
This starting last week. This is the first time in my life where I don't want to go to school because of this one
yeah,
class.
that feeling of dread you get when you have a class. That's
I mean, and I've had the worst of the worst. That's why they're giving me this group of
Right,
kids,
right.
because I'm the only one in my area who can deal with them. But I don't want to go to work.
Well, and I mean, add
It's
to that
completely-
too. Add to that too. I mean, in as much as so we have to think to ourselves organizationally, how does this happen?
But
Right? How does that happen? So that's and then that's one of those unanswered questions, kind of. But that we should be trying to answer more and more. And I would say, you could be more activist probably about where you are and what you're doing if you wanted to, but you probably have fears about that, and you know what I mean. So, but the other thing too is like all in the population described, half of them I'm sure have post-traumatic stress disorder, right? So there are all these triggers that are going on, and everybody's like flipping on everybody all the time.
Mhm.
So that's got to be an incredible situation.
It's epic. I've never seen anything
Right.
like this. But I kind of was piggybacking off what you said about individual teaching. I mean, I don't know where the money's going to come from, but you can't throw 30 of these kids in a classroom and expect individual, the
Right.
the gap between them is so large. Let's not even talk about
Right.
the gap among, different socioeconomic statuses, but the gap in there is so wide. With 30 different kids, we're doing it in, you can't, yes, you can really do a good job planning your lessons and try to reach every kid. But
No,
come
but
on.
it's beyond that.
It's
No,
beyond
it's
that.
way beyond that, and I think that's
Do you
And
get
so-
anything done at all? Sorry, excuse me. I'm just wondering
Yeah.
what you actually get done.
Yeah, I get some,
Evaluate
believe it or not,
that.
I get things done, but
based on their
it's the
own
most
time difference
stressful
than
environment I've
65.
ever been in, and it's taken
okay. So
years off my life.
Yeah, I was just saying.
Inner city will do that.
Especially this situation.
Yeah,
I've taught in Inner
I believe it.
City for 9 years and loved every minute of it, and now I'm kind of like, okay.
well, and this is why they'll lose good people like you, because there will come a point where you are just where you don't feel safe for emotionally, you don't feel safe physically, whatever it may be, and you'll just say, I can't do this, right?
Well, there's a common saying in my school, I'm a good teacher, therefore I get punished.
Well.
And, that's how everybody feels. Is don't do a great job with these kids who have behavioral problems, because you'll get them all,
Right.
Well,
one can hope that we are trying, we're trying to figure that out. And here in Connecticut, I mean, for example, I will say that in Connecticut, I don't know how you all feel, but I do think that this Stephen Pryor, this new commissioner, I don't know whether he'll be good or bad, but what I do know is that he's shaking it up.
shaking it up.
And he's trying to do some things that are different. It's not status quo quite, and we'll see how that goes, and whether or not the machine will let these new changes take place. but it's going to take a long time. And and then the other piece about where do you lead? What is going to be your purview? Jane's comment about how you have to choose what you're doing and also choose what you let go. And that is true because you can stay up 24 hours a day. You can run yourself ragged, and there's only so much impact that you can have. I mean, you can maximize your impact. Now, Jen has just told me that it's now 6:30, which means we're way past our allotted deadline for you to work on your projects. We will carry on with this as we continue to go through these, and I hope this is helpful.
Absolutely.
It is, because I like hearing other people's perspectives on, I'm at like oh my God, what do I do? And it's nice to hear what other people have to say.
Well, one of the nice things about education too, from what you're saying, whenever you have one of those classes that you just dread, well, the nice thing about what we do is next year it can all change. Every year is different.
Right, but you never know which way it's going to
And
go.
you don't.
That's
You
the
don't,
problem. It's
but-
like
Don't be a good teacher, because it goes the other
you
way.
think this one was bad, and then maybe the next one's worse.
Only good.
Positive thinking.
2 of my students just got charged
we
on
try to
library,
do
so they
that.
won't be back.
I
So
know.
that's at least 2 less. So
Well, I think that we all have to remember the work that we do and how important it is. And you look around at these little people, many of whom are highly misguided, for not their own fault. And we choose this work because there's something in us to do it. And then for many of us, we can do it until a certain place.
Mhm.
And actually, I mean, a lot of people come into leadership, right, because they can't do the teaching trenches anymore, and because it's time for them to, to share their expertise and their knowledge in a different way. And I think that's, we all do grow and morph, and that's okay. Like, that's one thing I think some people. My sense is not in this particular group, but there are people who really have trouble thinking like, oh my God, I'm morphing into the leader, or I'm morphing into something I didn't think I was. And their self-image is so caught up in a certain space. Like, I had one student who he was a coach, and he was kind of moving into the athletic director area. And as he became, more of a leader, it really unnerved him to think like, oh my gosh, I can't just be a regular old coach anymore, and I can't buddy around with people and pal around with people in the same way. Like, now all of a sudden I've got to be, more on point, and I've got to be more of a bureaucrat, etc. And it really bothered him for a long time until he came to peace with it. So, a lot of us have faced those. Is anybody feeling that way right now, or?
I just want to do that. I'm the athletic director. That's one of them.
You already do it.
I just went through that last year. Yeah.
Oh, you went through it. But you came out, right? You're
I
on the
came
other
out,
side. Yeah, okay, that's good. All right. Why don't you guys talk about your projects? I'm just going to go to the office. And then if you need me, if you have questions, just let me know, and I'll come back and answer them. So next week, you'll all let me know after this session whether we'll be meeting, or do you think we're not?
I know we can get together. We're very close.
We can get
so I know
together.
we'll be fine.
That's what we're
Yeah, we can.
We also have a class together
On
Thursday.
Thursday,
Oh,
so we
we'll
can
meet
meet
before
before or after
Because that's
that.
at 5, so we can meet at 3 if you want to.
Okay.
Together.
All right, well, that's
So
great.
we're doing
That
that.
works.
All right. Thank you for a nice class,
I have
everybody.
something
We'll
that
continue
I know
on
you
with
have
this.
something that you've been working on,
Yeah,
adult
just
to
email
adult.
me, right? Or you can ask
I
me.
have something
You're
that
like,
I'm working on
Listen,
more
I texted you 5
adult.
times the other day,
I
and it took 2 hours to
responded.
get back to me. So
to do
I was
the
like,
she's
law that's
responding, I
coming
think you
out
talked
with
to
the
her.
anti-bullying.
I'm
and
responding.
all
well,
that.
it took a while, so I was getting frustrated. Not at her, but just like
Admitting
that.
that.
Well, I don't know, my
I didn't know-
husband might not be
I didn't know
happy.
where
I
to
think
look
you'll
for the
be all
resume
right.
piece.